Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today let's talk about what to do if your job is not paying you enough. So whether your job isn't offering more growth opportunities, whether they're not offering raises, whether they're not offering overtime, whatever the case may be, trainings, etc. If you're not being put in positions to be potentially paid more in the near future or are currently being paid more right now, there's several reasons for this. I'll go into them very briefly and then we'll talk about the solution. So guys, most businesses, you have to realize the business isn't designed to benefit you, right? Like if you're an employee, right, the business is designed to benefit the whole system, right? So like making sure that hours are met, making sure that sales or profit margins are met, making sure that margins and labor expenses are cut, right? Because unfortunately speaking, right, you know, even if it pertains to like overtime, right, specifically, your labor expense is your highest expense for your company, right? So if your company's paying a lot of overtime, right, then they're not necessarily going to be as profitable as if they were maintaining their regular hourly rate with their employees. So that's just one case, but you know, it sucks because sometimes it's not even the company's fault, right? Like sometimes it is obviously out of greed and, you know, just wanting to benefit a certain select few in a higher role. But sometimes it's just, hey, you know, maybe the company's going through a shitty time, right? Maybe the population in that area is, you know, decreasing over time. Maybe people are leaving, right? So there's a lot of different factors. You know, inflation has been killing a lot of people. You know, a lot of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. So the consumer dollars might not be there, right, as they were a few years back, right? And you have to not try to complain about that and not, you know, try to fight that. That's just what it is, right? And sometimes it sucks, right? Like we have to deal with certain things that are outside of our control, right? And sometimes they're, you know, sometimes they do come from, you know, just selfishness and people in higher positions wanting to control the money for themselves. But also there are certain factors, you know, exterior to the company that may affect it, you know, negatively. And, you know, as a result, they may have to, you know, suspend certain things that, you know, benefit the employees, right? So, or hold back, let's say. So as someone who's pursuing financial freedom, financial excellence, and wants a, you know, comfortable life, relatively speaking, and not have to struggle and not have to, you know, stress about bills and stress about every financial thing on the planet, right? Like you don't want to have to worry about an expense that comes up that you might not be able to afford. You want to just be able to take care of everything as it comes, right? What do you do in this situation, right? Because you can find yourself getting mad, you can find yourself getting frustrated, you can find yourself, this can really irritate you if you're, you know, not really privy to, you know, how to navigate it. So I talk a lot about side hustles. I talk a lot about, you know, budgeting, and these things are kind of all inclusive and kind of coincide with each other as it pertains to navigating your life financially. And unfortunately speaking, right, the average person who is in a 9-to-5 job doesn't see that they are limited based off of whatever decisions are made above them. Like whoever makes the decisions above them limits them, right? So, you know, and they think that their job is the only source of, you know, income and revenue that they can derive. So once you start to break out of that mindset that your job is the only, you know, source of food, basically, you can start to really make some changes in your life and make some financial changes. But you have to first disconnect from the idea that you can only make money at your job, you can only work overtime, you can only get promoted, you can only take raises. Because those are the three things that every person, not every person, but most people are conditioned to believe is what's going to help them get paid more, right? And it's not that those things aren't, right? But you have to realize that those things aren't always going to be available to you, and they're not always going to be given to you, right? Sometimes favoritism kicks in. So what do? Well, if your job isn't going to offer you raises or opportunities for growth or overtime, what do? You have to create your own hours, right? You have to create your own hours outside of your job. And this is the bullet that most people won't bite, because what does this require? This requires you to not be what? Lazy, right? Because what does everyone do when they go home? They go home after their long day, right, of work, and they, kick back, on the couch, turn on the TV and start, flicking through Netflix or flicking through their favorite news channel or sports program or TV show, right? That's what most people do. They eat dinner, they shower up, or, do some things around the house and then go to sleep. But unfortunately speaking, right, this way of going about life doesn't really yield to any financial degree of excellence, right? This kind of keeps most people stagnant. It keeps most people in their job. It keeps most people at the hands of other people's decisions. And unfortunately speaking, right, those decisions don't necessarily benefit you in the long run and in the short term as well. So what to do? You have to figure out, right? And again, it can start small, but over time you'll have to start to develop yourself outside of your job, right? So whether that's skills, whether that's another job in the meantime, right, just to get some extra cash, you have to have a vision for your life outside of your 9 to 5, right? Because unfortunately speaking, right, we know the situations that occur at jobs, right? We know the limitations financially that are present in corporate America and in the employment realm. So being able to create your own source of income outside of your 9 to 5 is going to be beneficial not only for you but for the future you, right, that's going to enjoy a large sum of wealth, right? So being able to work extra hours in the beginning, maybe if that's maybe you don't have a skill but you're willing to put in some extra time, right, to create that extra source of income now, right? Whether you want to do one or two things, right? Because I'm assuming that most of you guys are able to budget, right? Or how to budget, right? That's kind of something I hope is a given, for my viewers. But, since you probably know how to budget, your next biggest thing is to be able to put that money in places where it's going to matter, right? So if that money is going to go to an educational program or educational school that's going to help you make more money, right, and you're like, damn, I'm really set on doing this, then that's what you need to use that money for. Or maybe you're like me, right, where you just want to invest your money. You want to be a long-term investor, you want to be a day trader, and you like the investment realm. Or maybe you're someone who's into real estate. Doesn't matter what it is. The point being is that you have to make more money, right? And you have to create your own hours so that you're able to do the things that most people can't do, right? A lot of people, it takes them till they're fucking 35, 40, 50 to start investing, because that's the age where they finally get the promotions that they were, craving, and that they're finally getting paid the amount that they want. I'm not here to shit on anybody who wants to wait out the corporate game, but I'm here to tell people that you can get it. I'm here to bring the news that you can get to your goals a lot quicker than 15, 20 years of just waiting around, right? I don't like to wait around. Sorry. Again, maybe impatience is not a virtue, but hey, I just really want to get after it, and I know that there's quicker ways to get to the financial freedom goal quicker than just sitting around waiting for corporate to tell you that you're good enough for a 10% pay raise or 10% increase in pay, right? Whatever. So again, in the beginning, like if you're just working a lot, right, like obviously that's not what you want to be doing. You don't want to be doing waiting tables or working security or doing Uber or whatever forever. But it's just important that in the beginning, whether it's 2 to 3 years, you begin to do this, because like I said, and I mentioned before, but some of you guys are new, as you start to build either your emergency fund, or as you start to get into a position where you can invest on a weekly, monthly basis, right, over the years, you'll start to see, holy shit, 2 to 3 years of working extra and investing weekly and investing monthly. Damn, I got an extra $60,000 in my investment portfolio. Damn, like, what can I do with that money, right? Maybe you could buy a property. Maybe you could take some of that money and, use it to, live abroad. Or, maybe you take some of that money and you go live in another country, right? Like, the point is that, like, if you're able to put yourself in a position where you have money, right, because you invested and you worked hard for a little bit of time, the doors for other things open up, right? And, for example, let's say you take $20,000 out of your $60,000 investment, right? Investment portfolio. Let's just say you do that. Well, $20,000, right? Like I was talking about, living in another country. If you're single, right, and you don't want to, and you want to focus on your own thing, or you want to work remotely, right? Like I think a lot of you do, then you can go to another country, right? You can apply for jobs online, or, right, you can work on your own thing. And you don't have to, necessarily show up in an in-person location and deal with the corporate mess that we're all sick of, right? So there's opportunity out there, but it's up to you to be able to, again, dedicate your time and see the vision. Like, a lot of people think, what's the word? Like, a lot of people think material things are what like life is about, and going on expensive trips and buying expensive things, and just like living like a pleasure filled life with like food and comfort and shit like that. Like, guys, when you're able to do what I'm telling you, right, effectively, and you're able to consistently maintain it, right, like the price of freedom, like the reward of having freedom is way greater than any other reward in life. I think if you lined up 10 people and you asked all 10 of them if they wanted freedom or pleasure, like okay, let's put it this way. Would you rather not have to answer to a boss and not deal with any bullshit in a job, or be, would you rather just be free and be able to do what you please moment to moment, right? Work on your own stuff, whatever that is. Or would you want to work your job but still enjoy cookies and pizza and, not mansions, but, like buying nice cars and going out, to the club and shit? I think a lot of people would say, no, I'd rather be free. Right now, obviously, you'll have some people that will like that lifestyle, but the point being is that the opportunities are there, but you have to get out of the mindset that your job is going to do it for you, right? Like, your job, to be honest with you, is just there for the most part to cover your expenses, maybe give you a little bit of savings, at the end of your expenses, but it's up to you with the rest of your hours of the day to create whatever you want to create, to be able to, push towards the life that you want, right? Like, that's why you don't see a lot of people who live the lives that they could live, because they don't push themselves. They just think that, again, their job is their limitation. They think that that's it, and they complain about their job. Like, a lot of people, is another thing that gets them stuck is like, they complain so much about their work or their 9 to 5, but they don't realize that them complaining about it is actually keeping them stuck. Like, once you stop complaining about it, you get in the driver's seat of your financial life, and you start to take steps towards a better financial life, right? The opportunities and potential for you become endless, and you can dive into whatever you want to dive into in the future. You can create the kind of career you want. You can become creative, right? You can use your creativity. You don't have to necessarily sit to a regimented rules and guidelines, place of employment that we're all swimming in. So the opportunities are there, the potential is there. It's just really what it comes down to is you being able to do the dirty work, being able to sit in the discomfort, maybe, because again, there's times where you're going to be tired, there's times where you're going to be stressed out, there's times where you're going to doubt, there's times where things don't go well. Like, if you're learning a new skill and you're not good at it in the beginning, like, you may want to quit, you may want to give up, or you may just be like, damn, this is too hard, right? And it is hard. One thing I'll say is, like, sometimes like learning things on the side is harder than just like learning them without having to work. Like, because again, you're working your job, you're tired at the end of it, right? You're tired. And again, depending on how old you are, you may have family obligations, things that you need to take care of outside of your job when you come home. But if you're still single or you have a partner that's very understanding and wants to see you do well, you can definitely make use of your time outside of your job when you come home, right? And again, those days, those months, those years that you're able to execute when you go home, right? When everyone else is just chilling, when everyone else is just kind of just sitting on the sidelines, waiting for something to happen, waiting for a promotion, waiting for a fucking raise, waiting for someone to tell them that they're good enough to make more money, you're gonna be far ahead, and you'll be like, damn, like shit, these people are still waiting for a promotion, but meanwhile, I'm ready to leave. I've built up enough capital to where I can leave. I don't need the job anymore. So I want you guys, you know, if you like your job, that's fine. I'm not saying that everyone needs to like hate their job and like want to leave. But the main thing is like I want you guys to be in a position to where you can leave if you want, and you can go do something else, right? Something else. Maybe that thing doesn't pay as much, right? But at least it gives you more joy, more fulfillment, and more autonomy, mobility, creativity, right? Things that we as human beings crave. Like, I think, you know, definitely some things for me, I really enjoy freedom, mobility, and creativity. Like, I'm a very creative individual. I like to express myself a certain way. I like to connect the dots with different things, right? And again, like, you know, that's something that I aspire to be able to do, right? And I enjoy doing it. I enjoy coming on here and, you know, connecting different dots and, you know, sharing things that can be helpful to you, because again, like, we're here, who knows in life, if you're here once, who knows if reincarnation's real. But I can guarantee you one thing, we're here for this life. So you got to make what you can of this life, right? And again, like, I don't want you to be on the other end of it where you're just in a shitty situation for the rest of your life. That's not what God wants, right? God wants you to be rich. God wants you to be happy. God wants you to have all the things that he knows you can achieve and accomplish. So anyways, guys, that's it. That's all. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. If you're new to my channel, make sure to subscribe. If you guys have any questions, comments, feel free to leave them down below. And as always, I'll talk to you guys soon. Peace.